This is the Soul-Filled Sisterhood podcast, and I'm your host, Nicole Burgess, licensed marriage and family therapist and an empowerment mentor for women. The information shared in this podcast is not a substitute, nor is it to convey professional, psychological, financial, or medical advice. If you could use such services, please seek them out from someone you trust. Now here is today's episode. Episode 34. Today's episode is sponsored by Nicole Burgess, the empowerment mentor for all the high-achieving, introverted, and sensitive female entrepreneurs. She helps them end the overwhelm and stressed-out cycle, create harmony between their work and personal life so that she can have a deeper connections with their partner and, more important, herself. Schedule your discovery call today. Go out to NicoleBurgessCoaching.com/apply. Now here is today's episode. Well, welcome, sisters. I'm really excited about this conversation I'm going to have with you today because we're going to talk all about the money mindset. And I know this is a charged topic for many women out there because a lot of fears, disappointments, and shame comes up around money. So if you're in a place, I'm going to ask you to grab a hold of some paper and pens so that you can, one, take some notes and really go through some of the questions that I'm going to ask on this. And if you're not at that place, no worries. Go back and re-listen to this when I start to ask some of the questions. So back in October, I asked listeners, friends, colleagues about their fears and worries about money. And here are some of the replies that I received back. So one of the questions I ask is, what is your biggest struggle or block around money? And there were a lot of the responses like, wow, there's a lot of questions and fears and blocks that I have around money. Some women stated that they didn't think they were able to even make enough money. They were always worrying about how they spent it or staying on budget. They didn't believe they were responsible enough if they made a lot of it, that between them and their partner, they weren't really on the same page about how to spend or how to save. Fears around not bringing enough in. They're struggling really with having an abundance mindset, getting money enough that they can do the things that they really love to do. Some other fears were just mishandling the money that they make. They spend more than they usually bring in. Another struggle or block is one responder, a couple responders actually stated that they just don't even like money. It made them just so anxious to even think about it. They don't understand, how to do certain things. So they like to kind of hide and not even go there, which again, that's actually a very common fear for many women. Some of the comments that I've received back over the years is, Nicole, I'm just not good with money. I'm not good with numbers, right? And I know women are still told that to this day, that men are better with numbers than women, which is a bunch of baloney. Because think of all the certified public accountants that are out there, the financial planners that are out there. And I also have a background in accounting. Think of Suze Orman. She loves to talk about money, which I love that she loves that because I do as well. When we come from a place of confidence, right? Even we're still going to have fears. As humans, we have fears that bubble up, but instead of staying stuck in those fears, then we're able to be more empowered to make more informed decisions. So Suze Orman talks quite a bit about standing in your truth, and I love that phrase that she uses because this is a time and a place for you to, one, get just aware of what those themes are that come up around money. What are those fears that you have so that we can begin to do something different with them. Another question that I asked is, how do you imagine your life would be different if you felt more confident in managing your money, whether it was, in business or in your personal life? And a lot of the responses I got back was I'd be less stressed out, I'd be happier, there would be freedom from worry and stress. I could move forward easier without all the doubt. I could actually see myself progressing. I wouldn't stress around so much around money regarding childcare or specific things that person wanted to do. Wanting to really feel more empowered about, beginning to invest for that long-term retirement plan that they've got going. They want to feel more empowered instead of feeling like they're a failure or believing that they're a failure. Others responded, I would be less stressed out and I would be able to assist others live the life the way that I want to live so that they can live that way too, where again, it's free from a lot of that stress and worry about money. The other question I asked was, what other problems does this fear, worry, stress block cause in your life? Again, all around money. And some of the responses I've got were, again, really common ones from women, which is one is, fear that I'm going to upset somebody in the family, that I get irritable or resentful because I don't have enough money. I'm dissatisfied with my job. I get into that comparison trap. I'm unable to move forward. So there's that procrastination avoidance again. There's a lot of uncertainty that it causes, stress that it causes, do less fun activities, avoid dealing with money in general, not looking at bills, not balancing the checkbook. That thought is, it takes so much effort to create these offers. Why would I want to continue to do that? No one will want it anyway, so why bother? So there's a lot of other issues that money fear, money blocks, or even the shame cycle around money, how it impacts other avenues of your life or other arenas of your life. Another question I then asked, what do you most want to experience instead? So instead of debt or money blocks or budgeting struggles, what do you want instead? Again, some of the responses I got is just that money is flowing to me easily, generously. I want to feel confident in my ability to actually manage money, being able to create experiences with my family versus worrying about whether or not we can afford it. Many people responded back saying, they want to experience freedom, comfort, peace, a sense of everything is positive in the area of money. They want that comfort and safety, that things will always work out, some calmness, having more of an easy flow with money, abundance, and being able to outsource things like, housekeepers, repairs, what they can do with that extra money that they may be getting in. And then another response was, the prosperity that they can share with other people. So one thing I want you just to remember right now in this moment is money is nothing more than a tool. It is energy going from one thing to the next. It actually does not have anything else attached to it unless we put something on it. So here's what I want you to do right now. If you're able to, I want you to go get that paper and pen so you can start asking yourself some of these questions. Remember back in episode 17, I talked a lot about the limiting beliefs. And how our beliefs in our subconscious, right? They're by the age of 9, 80% of them are already formed. All that stuff about love, security, relationships, all those fun little things have started way back then, and they definitely impact us as an adult if we do not have that awareness around it. So that step one, and again, I'm a big believer in self-exploration and self-reflection, which I talk quite a bit about in episode 1. That in order for you to make changes, you first and foremost need to have that self-awareness. So some questions that you can ask yourself is, what is my first memory of money? What were some of the words or behaviors that your dad used regarding money, that your mom used in regarding money? Who used to manage the money when you were growing up? What are your thoughts about rich people? What are your thoughts about being spiritual and being wealthy? People with money are people who live in service. Fill in the blank for those. Remember, I work in the healing profession as well, whether that's the therapy world, the coaching world, and I know many of you are in that world as well. And what happens with a lot of healers that I know and creatives that I know and visionaries that I know is they get their self-worth tied up into the money that they make. And those are two very different things. Your self-worth has nothing to do with your net worth. And net worth is, you've got your assets minus your liabilities equals your net worth. What you got in the bank minus any of your debts equals the net worth. Your self-worth is independent of that. Just throwing that in there before I ask or have you explore some more questions. So that would be even another question to get curious about. Like, where did that belief come from? That my self-worth equals the amount of money that I'm bringing in, the amount of money that I'm charging clients, patients, whatever word you use for that, your customers. Another question to really ask yourself is, my current spiritual beliefs around money are, and the way I put that into practice is, remember, all of this is coming from a place of curiosity, no judgment about whatever comes up. And again, if you're not in a place where you can explore this right now, pick a time and a place and set that timer for about 15 minutes or so that you can truly get curious. Just brainstorm, like whatever pops up regarding the word money, what pops up regarding those who have money, those who don't have money. You know, one of the beliefs that I've heard over my life is, to serve, you need to be poor. You need to show people that, you are also living in this place of poverty, which to do that, you don't have a viable business. So I'm coming from whether, you own your own business or if you're working from somebody, if you're constantly scraping by, you cannot provide those services that you want to help impact the world. So it's beginning to shift out of that mindset and coming from a more empowered place. And again, some of you may disagree with me, and that's totally okay. Get curious though, what comes up? When those emotions start to rise up, if there's anger that is coming up as you're hearing these questions, if there's frustration, resentment, whatever is popping up right now for you as you listen to that, get curious. There's no right or wrong to whatever emotions are coming up right now. They're just emotions. They're not good or bad. They're just emotions. The more we get curious with that, the more we're able to move forward versus staying stuck in that. And as I stated earlier, shame is a big blocker. It's a huge one for women, right? It becomes, well, I suck at managing money. And that ends up equating to I'm a bad person because I don't know how to do this. No, oftentimes it's more of maybe you weren't shown that in school, right? When I was in high school, we actually had I want to call it an accounting class, but it was really more about just managing your own finances. And I know not all high schools do that anymore. So if your daughter or son is in high school, they may not be given that class to manage that. I know they're really trying to revamp that more due to the high debt that many of our young people are in. When it comes to college education, when it comes to credit cards, they're really trying to help them gain that education. I know each one of you who is listening to this right now, I know you are intelligent. I know you were able to make changes in your life, because think of all the things that you've done over your lifetime. You have been able to do a lot of the things that you've set intention to, and the biggest thing is you decided to do it. Money is the same thing, learning how to add it, subtract it, manage it, watch it, all of that. It's teachable, it's doable. It's deciding to begin to take action to do something different. Remember we talked about that habit stuff? Remember I have Hope Eden, and she talks specifically regarding kind of psychotherapist and changing your habits, one at a time. This is the same thing, right? So as you've gotten more awareness, like what are some of those things that I have around what money is? Beginning to now say, what's my next step? It's beginning to face those fears. It's beginning to bring that shame into the light so it no longer has control over you. You have control over it. Instead of the fears running you, you manage them. We talked quite a bit about that in a couple of the past episodes as well. So one thing I'm going to so-called challenge you in, ladies, is begin to read more about money. Whether that's Money Magazine, it's Fortune Magazine, it's getting a book on money. There's the next episode, I actually interview a guest, and she talks about her mastermind with women and men regarding managing money and beginning to shift how they think about things. And then the following episode, I'm going to talk about various money books, mindset books, and just practical books as well that you can dive in. But the reality is it takes action. You can't change the fears around it unless you're taking inspired action. So think about that again. When we talk about fears, when we talk about worries, the biggest thing that the fear loves to whisper in your ear, right? Those fear gremlins, is to keep you stuck with where you are, because then it gets to manage your life. So if that thought is, oh, I don't know how to manage money. Oh, I'm not good with numbers. Oh, I'm never going to be able to balance my checkbook. Then you won't, right? Because you're choosing to not take the action to do that. And the only person who can change that for you is you. I know each and every one of you is capable of making those changes. Start small. So if you've not balanced your checkbook in a couple months or a long time, begin today. Open that up. Get your bank statements out. Just look at them. Set a timer. Just look at it. Give yourself permission to begin to face those fears. Then the fears can no longer run your life. You are running it. If it's more like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to do a budget or watch all my expenses with my business, start with a simple Excel spreadsheet or a number spreadsheet. Again, there's tons of templates out there if you were to Google that. I know other women, they use specific online software like QuickBooks or I think Wave. There's an app for that. There's things you can connect your bank accounts to that you can start to download those expenses, and you get to start to see, oh my gosh, this is where I'm, spending all of this money, and here's where I'd like to save that. The ultimate goal is eventually to get to the 15 to 20% where you're putting that back towards to retirement. You're saving maybe 10% that goes to, charities or tithing, whatever that is for you. Create your goals and then knowing the why behind it. If you want $10,000 in the bank so that if something breaks down in the house, your car breaks down, and you don't become so fearful, then it's creating that smaller goal of like, okay, so each week I'm going to save $10 so that I can build up to that $10,000. It's amazing the amount of money that we kind of nickel and dime ourselves with. And when we start to become aware of like, wow, how many times did I go out to get coffee this week that I could be spending that or sticking that back in my bank account so I have that in my reserve. Again, my goal is not to shame you. It's help you become more empowered. And where are you putting your money? It's becoming more empowered that you can truly do this, making these small changes. One of the other biggest things is talking about money with other people that you trust. Whether it's talking about the fears, celebrating these things that you are doing, that you're seeing this shift in yourself and in your beliefs, helps you stay moving forward. Begin to write down those affirmations of money. I'm grateful I have money in the bank because money allows me to do this. One mantra may be, money flows to me easily and in abundance. I'm grateful for money because it allows me to go on family vacation. It allows me to provide for my family in ways that helps keep us connected. Money allows me to give back more generously and to help more people around the world. It's, again, looking at things in a more positive and abundance mindset versus the lack, scarcity, fearful mindset. One author, I'm trying to remember who it was now, but they really compare like greed is coming from the same lack mindset as poverty is. And being able to, again, challenge where those belief systems are coming from. When it's coming from fear, when it's coming from, I want to have power over people, that's fear mode, right? That's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about being able to provide for yourself, for your family, for your business, or your profession, wherever you are. I know for some women that I've worked with in the past, when they worked for somebody, right, they were in corporate America, there was a lot of fear around asking for raises. And there's steps that you can do in order to ask for that raise. And some of that, again, like we talked about in other things, or what I talk about with clients that I work with, is looking at all the things that you have overcome, looking at all the things that you have accomplished. And when you keep a book of that, you're celebrating those wins, right? Again, high achievers, we are notorious for like, hey, I got that goal, let's move on. Slow down. Celebrate those successes, because that's going to be part of how you then, if you're working for somebody, sharing how you've impacted their company, the skills that you bring to their company, how that's impacted their bottom line. The other thing to remember, ladies, is that having that money in the bank, when that impacts, again, that stress level, it takes it down, because stress, we know, impacts our health. And without our health, we have a hard time being there for others. So get curious about your money mindset. Get curious about where those beliefs came from. Get curious about the emotions that it brings up. All non-judging. It's just about staying curious. It's knowing you do have the ability to make changes in your life. You do have the intelligence, the smartness, the skills to learn how to do it differently. You really, truly do. Pick one thing this week, starting today, one thing you're going to work on. Is it, I'm going to read more about money so that I can gain some more understanding. I'm not saying you need to go instantly invest in the stock market so that you feel more abundant. Get comfortable with looking at all the numbers. Get comfortable talking about money. Get comfortable with reading about money. Really is a fun thing to do when you come from a place of empowered. Think about, especially if you have children, how you can role model that it's okay to talk about money in a healthy way. It's not a thing to be feared. I know in past generations, that wasn't a topic they wanted to talk about, right? They really, because the Depression, when it hit, this is for my grandparents' generation, when that hit, it's like it really instilled a lot of fear in people's. Well, then that went from generation to generation. It's talking about you can do it wisely and be abundant in how you think about it. So I hope this was helpful today, and it's given you some, food for thought, meaning some questions that you can raise with yourself, knowing you do have the ability to make these changes. But once you have the awareness, action is the next step that has to happen in order to make those changes in your life. You are 100% responsible for yourself, and taking that responsibility, taking action, means you can change things. Thank you for listening. If you are a professional woman, whether you're an entrepreneur in the corporate arena, and you are ready to end the overwhelm and stressed out cycle so that you can have deeper connections not only with yourself but your loved ones, I encourage you to go out to NicoleBurgessCoaching.com/apply for your free breakthrough call today.